Welcome to a special episode of the Archetypal Mosaic. Today we have the Prince of Sealand himself, Mikhail. Sealand is a magical, real, physical micronation set in the ocean outside of the UK, where I am actually a real count. Welcome to the show, Mikhail, Prince of Sealand.
It's great to speak to you on the Skype here. The weather right now here is not very good. I mean, I understand it's very warm over there where you are, but it's a bit overcast and been raining a little bit. But it's summertime, so we should get some good weather soon. We have had some nice weather. Now,
tell me, are you there on Sealand now?
I'm not on Sealand right now. I was on there a couple of days ago, but right now I'm back in the UK.
And is there space for sleeping and resting? How long can you stay there at one point?
Oh, I mean, we've had people living there for 50 years. It's just during the war there was 120 Marines there, sailors and Marines. So there's loads and loads of space. Surprisingly large amount of space. When you see a picture of it, it looks. When you get on it, it's huge.
And is there a good kitchen and lots of storage for food?
Yeah. We got huge storerooms where we store 6 months to a year's worth of food, and yeah, kitchens, lounges, just like you'd have in a house, but bigger.
Now, your father, Roy Bates, he created the principality from a war dominion of safety. How did that come about? How did that brilliant idea come about?
Well, my father was involved in a phenomenon known as pirate radio back in the 60s. Back in the early 60s, when I was a boy, there was no pop music on the radio. Here on the BBC, the only station you could get was the top 20 every week for an hour, and that was it, done. So a bunch of entrepreneurs put radio stations on ships and old-time war fortresses out in the North Sea in international waters and started broadcasting in the UK. And the kids loved it. But the government brought in legislation and managed to close down the radio stations, and they made it illegal to supply the stations with food or staff or advertising, and they strangled the lifeblood of them and put them out of business. Having done that, they then decided they had to issue licenses, British licenses for commercial radio, but they didn't involve any of the entrepreneurs that actually turned the whole thing around. They just used local businessmen. My father was thinking what to do, didn't know what to do next. His station got closed down, and he looked for a better jurisdiction, and he ended up on this particular fortress, which was originally known as Ruff's Towers, further out in the north. Before he could put the station back on the air, he had the bizarre idea of declaring independence, and 50 years later, here we are.
It's wonderful. Now, there's a lot of micronations in the world. Is Sealand still considered a micronation, and is it the only real physical living being one?
It is indeed, really. I mean, I get to various events around the world I get invited to, and I meet lots of these guys with these different micronations. I think the word was just about what it was, invented around Sealand. We're always held as the epitome of a micronation. But, the micronations, they're like weekend warriors. They do it from their living room or their bedroom, or they claim borders between borders, and Sealand's an actual living entity and requires a lot of hard work, finance, fuel, wages, infrastructure, boats, helicopters. It's a proper thing. It's not just someone's dream. I used to be a little bit have an odd opinion of the other people, the other micronations, but having met quite a few of them, they're mainly artistic types, and I have good fun when I'm with them, but I don't see them on the same level because they haven't met the same challenges that we have. I believe you've read my book, and if you have, you will see the challenges we went through over the years. I mean, absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I don't think everybody else would have done it.
That's right. The book is called Holding the Fort by Mikhail of Sealand, and you can get it on the official Sealand website. There's also a signed version available, which comes with an official stamp of Sealand, and I will have a copy of of my signed book, or just the page that's signed as part of the promotions for the show, so for those who want to see it. And I see that there's, are they limited to 500 copies?
Well, we sold the 500, and we've had another 4,000 made, and we're hacking our way through them. The book's gone down really well. It's got very good reviews on Amazon and Kindle and everything, so I'm very pleased. It's a good yarn. I mean, it was an interesting story. I didn't have to make anything up. That's the funny thing about it.
It's a fantastic book. It's beautifully bound. I'm glad that you have another 4,000, because I was a little worried after I saw 500. I was reaching the 500 mark with mine. So this is great. So yes, audience, check out the book, definitely. And not only can you get the book, but you can also support the Principality by simply becoming a lady, a lord, a baron, or a baroness. Tell me, a lot of people wish to have a title. You provide these titles. A lot of people argue, do these titles have validity? Well, they have validity on Sealand, right?
Of course they have validity on Sealand, and I mean, we market them to support Sealand. It's what pays for everything these days. I mean, years ago we did it. We had to find the money ourselves for everything, but these days it's almost self-financing, and it pays for all the infrastructure and the wind generators and things that are needed. But of course they're valid, and they're valid. Sealand recognise them all around the world. I mean, you might have a title in a UK title or a French Count or Comte title, and it's only, you could possibly say it's only recognised in France, but of course it's recognised, yeah. And
tell me, for example, I remember from a young age, the Count title was available at one point, then it was not available for a long time, and then it became available again just several years ago. Why was it missing for several years is the first question. Another question is, can you call me officially by my name? I'd love to hear it from the Prince.
Well, you ask about the titles that came and went. I don't know. I mean, originally when we got involved, we had another company that helped us market the stuff, but it wasn't good for us, and they were a little bit, shall we say, unscrupulous, and so things got changed around, and we took control of everything. Over the years, we've had, it's been 50 years now, and we've dealt with some good people, and we've dealt with some bad people by accident, and it's very difficult when you're sitting out in the middle of the North Sea in a very small family, and you're trying to organise what's going on, and we've been, shall we say, had over by a few people over the years. So these days, anything that we market, apart from the book, which is on Amazon as well, any other products that we do, they go directly from ourselves. We don't deal through anybody else ever again.
Mm-hmm. And please call me by my title.
Lord Mikhail Tank.
It's Count, actually.
Count. Oh, you're a count. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I lost that in the making somewhere. Yes. You look like a count as well. With that hair and that. I can see you in a French outfit. Okay, Count Mikhail. Thank you very much for your support. It's very much appreciated.
Oh, my pleasure. Is it called Haven Co? Is that the correct way of saying it?
Haven Co, yeah.
Now, tell me, originally, just to fill in the people, how was it? How did that come up? And was it a safe haven of sorts? Is it still present? And how can people use it?
Haven Co was the product of the imagination of some American people, Sean Hastings, Abby Friedman, Ryan Lackey, and when they came to me with their idea, I thought a server was someone that bought you a drink in a restaurant. But now I'm a little bit better educated on the subject and understand about what we did. But it's all a new thing to me. It's very exciting, very interesting times. Unfortunately, the company was fired up when the internet bubble burst near enough, and when the Soviet Union broke down, and I think it very quickly destroyed their business plan. But it was very interesting. There was a slight presence Haven Co has at the moment, but pretty much no, and so the service is not. We're not marketing right now, but we're always thinking about how to do it. We consult now and again with and have meetings now and again with Avi Friedman, who's a big name in the internet business, and you never know, one day soon he might just pop out the woodwork, again.
Do you guys have a theater on Sealand, a small movie theater, and what are some of the favorite movies you like to watch on Sealand, maybe as a family beforehand?
We don't have a theatre, but we have a big screen TV here. Favourite movies? I don't know. I mean, personally, I like action movies like Bond films and Lethal Weapon and Taken and things like that. I'm not a very artistic kind of chap. Although now and again when I'm on these artistic dues abroad in Brazil and places, they give me a badge that I pin on my chest that says art. I'm a bit of a Philistine, really.
Tell me, in regards to filming, has anybody wanted to film on Sealand, part of a film, and is there going to be a film about Sealand?
There is going to be a Hollywood film about Sealand, and I was in LA, I think in March time, and contracts have been signed, and it's very, very interesting, and the people involved are very interesting people, and I'm not allowed to say who they are, but if I did, you would know who I was talking about. So, yeah, it's really looking great, really looking good for a film.
That sounds exciting. Have any of the James Bond people ever reached out to try to film on Sealand?
Years ago, one of my best friends was a stunt pilot who flew in 6 or 7 James Bond films, and in fact, when we had the trouble out there, it was him that flew the helicopter when we did the helicopter stop back on the Fortress, and there was talk about filming out there. Although at the end of it, he said normally at the end of it they want to blow it all up, and of course that wouldn't really been acceptable.
And that blowing it up leads us to the fire in 2006. How did that fire come about, and was anybody on there during it?
Yeah. There was people there. I think what happened was a pin fell out of a governor bar on a diesel generator, and the engine screamed away, and before we got to it, caught fire, and then the fuel caught fire, and so it went on.
And it took quite an effort to not only take away the fire, but to bring Sealand back to its working condition. How long was the entire process of renovation?
Yeah, I suppose, a good year, I suppose, but it became livable in a few months. But, as you probably know, or anybody would know, once you get smoke involved, it runs through everything. But yeah, a huge amount of work went into that.
Now, as far as I understand, Sealand has its own currency, its own stamps. These things are collectibles around the world by people who love stamps and coins. Is it ever used can you use the stamps when you mail out letters? Can you use the currency inside could you call it a man-made island, or what is the process?
It's a fortress, isn't it? It is a fortress. I mean, I suppose in theory you could use a currency on the island, but in reality people collect them as collector's items. I mean, they're silver and, they have a high sort of value. Stamps, we used to use the stamps all the time, and then we used to put them through the British Post Office for years, and then there was a change in regime, and someone decided that wasn't the way. At the end of the day, you can only use your stamps. I mean, you could not come to England, shall we say, and put a US stamp on an envelope and expect to put it in the post box in England, and it could go anywhere. So we now say that the stamps just cover the costs from Sealand to the UK.
Is there any kind of annual or quarterly magazine of Sealand that's going to be available or is available?
There's a newsletter, a monthly newsletter. I think sometimes we're a little bit lax in getting it out on time. There's meant to be a monthly newsletter. And now pretty much I'm asked to write it, so that's probably why it's not always on time. Sorry.
I think that's great. Tell me, what about visiting Sealand? For someone like a Count, is it possible to one day make an appointment and visit Sealand?
It's possible, but at the moment we're a little bit busy with everything. But it's definitely a possibility, of course.
And then, are you going to have any titles available of Prince or Princess in the future, not only Count or Baron?
I don't see that in the foreseeable future. It's been discussed, but I think it might devalue things a little bit. But
that's reserved for the family, correct?
Yeah. Very
cool. Let's talk a little bit about. other principalities and royals as they appreciate Sealand. In the book, it mentions that the president of France, or was it the prime minister, who wrote a letter and congratulated. How did that come about, and did that kind of bring a certain sense of pride and value to the principality from one place to another? And also, how does the UK government, have you ever met the Queen, or have you ever had any dealings with the UK government, and how does the connection there?
No, I've never met the Queen. My son has met Prince Andrew. We have no direct dealings with the government apart from when MI6 or MI5, where it was, started to get involved with a bit of nefarious carrying on, in the early days, trying to get us off of Sealand. No, I mean, I have no reason to meet government.
Mm-hmm. And what about the French Prime Minister's letter? Did that pretty much just say congratulations on the conception?
Yeah, it was President Pompidou, so that would have been, I think, early 70s. He wrote to us wishing us luck with our new enterprise and our new country. It was quite a nice thing. Yeah, it's a recognition thing, isn't it?
It is.
Just something else, yeah.
Tell us a little about, you have wonderful photos here in the book of your father and your mom, and just the way they had fun. Looking at the photos, one can really see the family love, the fun, the ingenuity in this whole process. As a kid, as pretty much the first generation prince who was born into this place, which is you. For you, it appears that this is what you were born into, right?
I mean, near enough. I was at boarding school in Wales, and Wales is quite an austere, cold place to be. And one day, I was with my father on the boat during my Easter holidays out at Sealand, and he was having staff troubles and this and that. And I said, "Oh, help." I was 14. So 14. I mean, we made it a principality to make it a constitutional monarchy, to make it easier to control without needing law books or a senate or a parliament. The prince's word is the law. And also my dad, I'm sure, wanted to make my mum a princess on her birthday, because that's when we declared independence on the 2nd of September, my mother's birthday. It's a romantic gesture.
And just the fun and your mom seems to have a great imagination too. She looked like an actress. I saw her modeling photographs, and was she ever in the entertainment industry? And did she love the idea of being the Queen?
Well, she was a princess. She thoroughly enjoyed that. She thoroughly enjoyed it. My mother was absolutely stunning. You're quite right. I mean, everybody, even any old people I meet these days, say, "Oh, your mum, she used to come in the room. She's absolutely stunning. All heads would turn." And she was, she did a bit of modelling and everything else. But she was stunning. Yeah. I used to go to this nightclub when I was a boy. When I was in my 20s or whatever. And at the top of the stairs where you paid your money, you walked down the stairs to the club, and there on the wall was a picture of my mother modelling a fur coat with a fur hat on. And I'd go in there with girlfriends, and I'd go, "That's my mother." They go, "Come on, that can't be your mother. She looks too young." And I mean, she was really cool.
Yeah, and your mom reminds me of my favorite actress when she was young, Angelica Houston. Just the elegance and the life that came from her is really amazing. And your father appeared to be very, very much of an eccentric in a way, right? He had a strong imagination.
He had a strong imagination, but I mean, everybody that talks about him now that knew him said he was the archetypal British Army major, like Savile Row suits, marching down the road straight back and everything else. But on top, more than that, I mean, he just loved adventure. I mean, he just one adventure or another. I mean, he passed away a few years ago, but he always said that death would be the greatest adventure.
And you, this creation is very much. Which soldiers were on there that you said were being protected? Were they the UK soldiers originally?
During the war?
Yeah.
What it was, the Thames Estuary runs up to London, right? Mm-hmm. And they built a line of naval forts across the mouth of the Thames estuary, and they built a line of army forts in the estuary, both with anti-aircraft guns, surface-to-air artillery. And the German aircraft used to use the River Thames to find London. Before the days of GPS and super-duper navigation systems, they did have to follow the river. And they get up to London, they bomb it. So that's why they put a ring of steel across the front. So the naval forts were manned by sailors and marines, and the army forts were manned by the army.
120. Now, did they all sleep? Where are those sleeping quarters? Those huge legs. What would you call those things? The tunnels or
towers? The towers.
Inside the towers, is there space for sleep?
Yeah. I mean, the rooms are. Let me try and think. They're 24 foot across on the inside, and they had beds all around them. There's 7 floors in each tower. There's 14 floors,
wow.
And there's beds all around the walls. And there's a lift shaft. Not down the middle, but down one side, and the lift shaft went down to the magazine at the bottom where the ammunition was kept, and the magazine was below sea level. So the idea was, if there was a fire or they got hit and there was a fire, during action, they could open the seacocks and flood the magazine, stop it exploding. So there was rooms. The rooms had beds all around the edges, but there were bunks, like 2 layers, and then they had hooks in the middle to the sides for hammocks and everything else, so they had plenty of space. Was
there any space inside of the bottom of the towers for any submarines or any boats to enter?
No. It's totally sealed. It's perfectly dry down the bottom. To this day, it's like dusty, it's really dry.
Now, when you travel to Sealand, you said you live in the UK, so do you go from the edge of by the ocean, and then you just take a helicopter or a boat, or what are your options? And how far is the route for you?
Well, I spent a lot of time in Leigh-on-Sea in Essex, which is fair way away, but it's quite a long trip. So when we go by boat, we normally we have a rigid inflatable, a rib, which was originally built for the Special Boat Service, which is like the marine version of the SAS, which you've heard of. And this thing, it's got a thing on it. It's made for dropping out of helicopters, It's about 22, 23 foot long, and it's got 235 horsepower, and it flies. And we keep it up in a marina, up the coast near Sealand, and we drive up there, get on this thing and fly out there. So we use helicopters sometimes, but they're very, very expensive. So a little bit out of our budget, they can soon chew up loads of money with helicopters.
And tell me, is it your humility your tremendous humility, why you chose to call yourself in the book Michael of Sealand instead of Prince Michael? Why do you admit the incredible honor you have?
I think maybe it is humility. Maybe that's right. Yeah. I'm proud of the title and everything else, but I mean, my friends that I've been around in the UK. I mean, I'm also involved in the fishing industry. Have been for years. Friends who have known me for years and drink with me, in bars and things like that. When they've read my book, they've gone, "Well, I know you've had an interesting life, but we didn't realise quite how interesting." They never really talk about it.
Your life seems to have been and still is in the middle of imagination and reality. I guess the entire world, if you look back, countries, everything was built partially by imagination. And some things are appreciated by the masses, some things are appreciated by certain groups of people, but what you've created is really unlike anything else there is in the whole world. It's a truly unique property. Do your children have the same kind of ignited love for this? Are they going to continue this incredible situation?
Yeah, my children have a great passion for it, and I have 2 grandchildren now, James and Freddie and Harry. So hopefully they'll carry on with it. But my sons James and them, and my daughter Charlotte have a great passion for it, and very supportive and very much involved. I mean, I let them take over all the stuff now.
And your daughter, I think, resembles your mom, right?
Yeah, my daughter's beautiful. Yeah.
About food, is there any special? Is there a fish and chip special on Sealand? Any kind of either drink or food or snack that's known to be a Sealand specialty?
Well, we were asked years ago what the national dish was, and I always say spaghetti because my family always liked spaghetti. And we went to an artistic event in Helsinki to do with micronations, and they actually. Everybody got spaghetti, like there's hundreds of people and they had these huge great Parmesan cheeses and everything else, they put stuff in it. It was amazing. But yeah, afraid it's just spaghetti, so
and
Italian, so to speak.
What kind of spaghetti? What's on it?
Neapolitan tomato spaghetti, yeah.
Was this your mom's recipe or?
I suppose so. Well, it actually comes back from my dad because when I was a boy, in England now, it's traditional. If people go out to the pub at night time and they have a few drinks to get a bit pissed up, they all go for a kebab or a curry, right? But when I was a boy, you couldn't get a curry. We'd have to go to London to a restaurant called Veer Swami's, which I'm pleased to say is still there. But I haven't been there since I was a boy. But I walked past it the other day, and there's two Sikh guys standing outside and all the beautiful garb and everything else. So the world's changed. But the spaghetti thing comes from my father, because he spent a lot of time in Italy during the war. And I guess spaghetti was pretty handy.
It sure is. It's easy to make. Let me ask you, in terms of beer, drinks, iced tea, wine, is there a specialty on Sealand in the cases there, or one that you guys are possibly thinking of creating yourselves?
No, we thought about setting up our own brewery. Years ago when I was there, I used to make my own beer, like hundreds of gallons of it, And I used to brew it down let it ferment down in the generator room, which was, because it was hot down there, and every now and then you bang, pop, and the bottles exploded. But that was always a great thing. But and then when Haven Co was going, we made it dry because we didn't want people getting drunk and breaking things. But yeah. We like a drink.
Tell me, when it was announced to be a principality of an independence, who was it announced through or by or via? Was it just a statement sent out to other governments, or was there some kind of a registration company or anything like that?
No, we invited a couple of newspapers out. I think one had an exclusive, like a Sunday newspaper, and we raised the flag and declared independence and just told the world by the press.
Fantastic. And then in terms of the titles, not only do they have validity on Sealand, but a lot of times when people around the world wish to have a title, instead of getting a made-up title, here they're very much real for Sealand, and it's a fun and beautiful thing to have. Can you tell me, is this a kind of title, for example, a title of count? When you call a restaurant, sometimes you can say, this is a count. And do you feel like these titles, they have life, value? Do these titles last? Can they be given to the next of kin? Is there value in that?
I believe yes. People enjoy the titles without a doubt. They don't go down through the generations. But the other thing I was going to say to you, 13th century French kings sold titles of nobility to help finance their wars. The Comte, this one, the Comte, that's the French counts, and there's quite a few of them, because they used to finance their wars and pay for their mercenaries and then pay for the this and the other with letters, and they would issue a letter of nobility to these guys, and they became a count. So it's all done along the same sort of lines as that. But yeah, people love the titles. It takes you, It's a very quirky, different thing, isn't it?
It's wonderful, but you can't pass it down, though, huh?
No.
Okay.
You have to get another one. Hey, come on, we have to buy more food and diesel and more stuff.
And it's interesting because a lot of European governments actually. I know that when I went to Romania, I know that some counts there were given the titles for either saving people or putting money into things. So a lot of titles throughout history were given for supporting a elite group. So yeah, that's been around for forever. So it makes perfect sense. This is just the way to do it. You support through online. So it makes perfect sense. I mean, it sounds perfect. Now, along with the titles, you also have pieces of land. You have ID cards. And for the pieces of land, now the piece of land only lasts for about 15 years, the parcel, is that correct?
To be honest, I can't tell you the answer to that question. I'll have to ask my son.
And
I thought they lasted longer than that.
The parcel of land, and please check the website for the correct year, audience, that I bought a piece a long time ago, I just don't recall myself. When you get a parcel of land, is it just of significant, let's say, ceremonial value, or does it have any kind of like stock value?
No, it doesn't have any stock value, but it's a support thing really to keep us going, you know.
And
it's cheap as well. It has no stock value.
And then it has T-shirts, and you also have a team that plays which sport?
Well, we have quite a few sports, but we have a football team. We have a charity one that plays at Craven Cottage now and again, which is a Fulham playing, football ground, which is quite a big deal. And we play the Fulham All-Stars. And our charity team is made up of famous English actors and comedians and some Olympians. We also have another football team that's a bit more of a football team that plays football and wins. And we've played in the Channel Islands, we've played in the Isle of Man, we've played in France and Italy and Finland and, quite a few places. Well, I think we're waiting to go to the Caribbean next year, but yeah, it's fun. I mean, I normally go along and support them. And
what about rugby? Is there any plans to have a rugby team?
Yeah, there is a rugby team, but whether they're actually playing any games, I don't know. But there was a guy meant to be sorting a rugby team out. We've just sorted out a judo team with a guy in Belgium. We've had all sorts, like fencing, cycling, curling, everything. You name the sport, we've probably done it. Hockey.
And tell me, do you do press for the book and for Sealand? Do you do lots of interviews on British TV?
Yeah, do lots of interviews. I mean, to be honest, we very often don't bother. It can be inconvenient, but yeah, I mean, I'd like to promote. We need to promote the book and one thing or the other. I'm doing a book signing in London in a couple of months' time. We do stuff from all around the world. I mean, I think we had Japanese television out recently, out Sealand, and German television. But there's always something. I mean, in 1 week, about a month ago, in 1 week, we were on Newsnight on the BBC and a program, Drone Britain or something, where they took a drone out. Now, there's a funny old thing. Those drones are quite intrusive, you know. You're sitting out in Sealand having a cup of tea, and all of a sudden a drone appears from underneath.
Whoa.
You know?
It feels like a spy is watching, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a different world, because years ago, if they wanted to film from there, then a helicopter would be really expensive. But now this drone appears, you know. Do you have a law against drones now? We don't, but we've been talking about it. I think for the minute we're just shooting down. We're not happy with them, but other than that, yeah.
And tell me, you have a really cool photo here about that's how you climb a rope ladder. Is this rope ladder, is this the one that goes from where to where exactly?
That picture of me climbing a rope ladder years ago, that went from the top of Sealand just down to the sea, so you climb down it and jump on a boat.
I see. Altogether, is there anything else you'd like to say about your book? I'm really glad that you did publish this book, because, you know, I remember reading about and being really interested in Sealand as I was a teenager, and I couldn't really get too much backstory and history about it. This book is very well written. It's very clear. It has a lot of details, great photos. Again, as I said, it's beautifully bound. It's a hardcover book. You can get it on the official website at sealandgov.org, along with a signed version by Prince Michael, who is second generation. What would you like to tell the audience about your new book?
Well, the book took me 13 years to write, and the reason it took me 13 years to write it, and the reason I actually started writing it was because years ago we sold the film rights to Warner Brothers, and a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine now, wrote a film script, and I didn't like the film script, and he said, Sealand was a love story, and I said, no, it's not a love story, it's more of a bang, crash, wallop, lethal weapon, Mel Gibson type film. No, man, it's a love story. I said, it's not a love story. It's been a real adventurous, roller coaster run. And I said to him, if you think that a love story will sell the film better than the other story, then you do the film and I'll do the book, warts and all. So I sat down and started writing, and then I stopped for a year, and then did a bit more, and it went up and down and backwards and forwards. But it took me forever, and then all of a sudden I thought, I've got to get this out. And I'm really pleased I got it done because of my grandchildren would see it and be able to read about their grandparents and everything, and their great-grandparents. And it's a good yarn. It was a huge adventure. I don't want to go through those early days all over again, but I would if I had to.
You have a great attitude, a really fun attitude about this, and the book is really well done, as I mentioned. Is there going to be a paperback or a Kindle edition as well, or is it going to be just a hardcover?
It's out on Kindle now. You can get it on Kindle.
Okay.
I don't know whether there'll be a paperback edition, but certainly it's on Kindle. You can get it on Amazon, and you can get it on our website.
Oh, you have it as Kindle on your website, because in the U.S. I think it's only available as a hardback. I haven't seen it as a Kindle in the U.S., but it's good to know that it's available.
Yeah.
Now, any last things that we'd like to discuss before we complete the interview? Again, you have a wonderful kind of fun aura about you. You live in a multi-dimensional world in the UK, and also in this real micronation, which is probably the king of all micronations, right?
Yeah, right. And also some amazing things have come on over the years. I mean, a couple of months ago, I was invited last year to a wedding in Mexico, right? Mm-hmm. And I've never heard of this guy. And this bloke wrote to me and he said, my boss is getting married in, I think it was March. He said he would love you to come to his wedding. And he said, we are in La Paz, Mexico. So I wrote, I don't normally see the mails, but I normally answer them, like someone answers them. But I see where it is, and I look it up, and it's on the Sea of Cortez. Now, in my bucket list is to go and see the whales on the Sea of Cortez. So I write back to the guy, and I said, funny enough, I was thinking of going in February to the Sea of Cortez and seeing the whales. So this guy writes back to me, he says, if you and your partner will come to my boss's wedding, he says he will pay all your expenses out, all your expenses back, all your hotels, everything, and he will give you 5 days whale watching, paid for. So I didn't have a girlfriend at the time, so I went with my daughter. We had an absolutely fantastic trip, and we did the whale watching. And the last day, I mean, the wedding was amazing, I've got to say. Jean-Michel Cousteau was there. Jacques Cousteau's son, who was older than me. I mean, he's 70-something, but he and I signed the register, and it was absolutely amazing. I mean, but we got picked up into that airport and driven into the mountains across the desert by an Israeli security guy who said, I don't think an American would have done what you're doing here because, it's the Badlands, And but it was really amazing, and the wedding was great, and the reception was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, they flew in an orchestra from Mexico City, That's it's 2.5 hours away. And the bands and food and the whole thing was absolutely amazing. And then they drove us back to Cabo, and we had 5 days whale watching. And the day before, almost last day, the phone rings and this guy says, I don't even remember. He said I was at Diego's wedding. He said, and I'm the veterinarian at the Dolphinarium. He said, and if you and your daughter would like to come, we'll give you a free viewing, a personal viewing. So the Dolphinarium was shut, and my daughter went in the water with the dolphins, and the whole thing right the way through, and was amazing. And I think I spent about $10 on a taxi when I was in La Paz. I mean, it was unbelievable how well they looked after me. All that stuff about poor Mexicans, Don't you believe it?
And you know, that's the beautiful thing about life, is to be able to travel, to be able to create, to be able to live a life that's filled with fantasy and reality. And you do all of those things. And soon a Hollywood film will be on its way. Now a book is available. I mean, this is a quality of life. And I commend you, you know, for taking on your father's and your mother's concept, and to respectfully, in a perfect way in our day and age, making it a great, humble, and creative experience. So I think you've done really, really well.
Thank you very much, and thank you for calling me, and it's been a great pleasure to speak to you, Mikhail.
Thank you so much. Prince of Sealand. Again, dear audience, visit sealandgov.org. The new book is called Holding the Fort.